Don't miss Good American Family.
We have a little girl here for adoption. She has dwarfism.
Starring Ellen Pompeo and Mark Duplass.
Something is off.
She's just a little girl. You think she's faking?
She has adult teeth. There are signs of puberty.
Inspired by the shocking stories that tore a family apart.
I don't know what's going on.
How old are you?
You should get a lawyer.
You have no idea how those people hurt this girl.
The Hulu original series, Good American Family. New episodes Wednesdays, streaming on Hulu.
Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. You can find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. You order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days, without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. And plus, you get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your own landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. For example, I knew that I was in the growing zone 10, and I picked out the most perfect lemon tree. It's so cute. It makes me so happy every time I walk outside. This spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to this show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code Kate Casey at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Kate Casey at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Kate Casey. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Kate Casey to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. I hope that you've had a great week. I hope that you've made some time for yourself and you've really sunk your teeth into a doc or maybe a reality show. If you haven't had time this week, please check out my list at katecasey.substack.com because you're going to have a lot of options. This is going to be a great weekend for you to kind of binge a bunch of stuff too. Of course, I have been telling you in terms of reality shows, you've got to watch Temptation Island on Netflix. And more on that in a minute. But if you have been watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, you know, we've been waiting for this big showdown between Dorit and Sutton, and it happens in St. Lucia. And all of the women are kind of like, listen, Sutton, you really tend to come down hard on other women when they're going through their lowest moments. And she's so confused by it. She gets up, she's got to do a lap around the boat. Again, I think origin stories say so much about a person. Go back to the episode where Sutton took cameras to Georgia, where she's from. I think you are going to get a better sense of the way that she communicates, the way that she looks at relationships based on the relationships she has with her mother and obviously in the home that she was raised. Absolute must-watch episode this season, I think, is the one in Georgia. In Summer House, you see a lot of the arguments having to do with Kyle and Craig and this drink business that they're both in the industry. Craig's now investing in a business that you would think from the show is a direct competitor to Kyle. I don't know if that is the case. I don't know enough about that industry, but it is kind of interesting that you have two cast members on reality shows that are so enraged by the other ones, essentially sort of looking past their own grievances when it comes to whether or not they invest in a company or whether or not the other person is willing to invest in a company that's a direct competitor. I think it speaks a lot to all of the issues that happen off camera on these shows. They spend a lot of time together at these industry events. And then I think that much like the cast of The Bachelor, they have seen how helpful it is to their own careers and their own social media when they can tag each other. And they do that by going to events together and then they build these relationships. And in the case of Craig, he appears on 2 Bravo reality shows. Visibility equals profitability. So I like those scenes where they're arguing about things that have seemingly nothing to do with what's going on in their home on Summer House or with their relationships on Southern Charm or whatever show it may be. It's really about the ancillary opportunities, which gives us broader context on how their lives have changed since becoming cast members on a reality show. So a lot of like Easter eggs in Summer House and Southern Charm with respect to the Paige and Craig relationship, but also about what their lives are like and the business dealings that they do off camera. So I'm telling you, you got to watch those shows for that reason too. Now, in this episode, I was thrilled to have Mark Walberg with me because he is host of Temptation Island. I've been covering this show for a long time. If we look at it, it's actually been on the air 9 seasons, but it had been on 2 different networks before it landed this season on Netflix. It feels very different to me. It's far more edgy. So if you are kind of missing the Love is Blind romance stuff, but these like complex romantic situations, it's perfect. But it's also got elements of like F-Boy Island. It's pushing the boundaries much more. And so the concept is you're taking these 4 couples who are kind of at an impasse in their relationship, and you're putting them in Hawaii in 2 different houses, and they're surrounded by tempters who are trying to make them push forward in a decision on whether or not they should be together. And yes, on paper, it sounds insane. But the great thing is you're watching them process the relationship they've been in and whether or not they want to stay with that person. And then the tempters are so good at what they do because in some cases they're pushing past the boundaries they have set with the person they're in a relationship with. Some of these couples, they're like, okay, we're going to film this show for 3 weeks. There's no way I'm going to cheat on you. I'm here in this house in Hawaii for this amount of time to really explore my own sense of self and what I want in a relationship. And then they're confronted with the other sex in a like string bikini or shirtless, and they throw that all out the window. And that's why it's an interesting social experiment. So let me tell you a little bit about the couples before you start watching if you have not watched already. And if you have watched, you're going to love this episode with Mark because we talk about all the behind the scenes stuff. So here are the couples. Shantae and Brian. Okay, so she's 29, he's 26. So they've been dating for about 1.5 years. They're thinking about starting a family together, but they've got this one issue. Outgoing and sexually adventurous, he's become involved with someone else in their partnership. And he talks openly on the show how he's always wanted to have a threesome. So that's a big issue. And in the process of the show, you will see him have a threesome. So you're confronted at the end with the person that you came to the show with, and you are able to see the playback, big moments of the time that they've spent there, which may include their hookups with other people. And these couples at the end of it have to decide, are we going to stay together or not? So it's wild. So in this case, she sees the playback and the question is, will they stay together? So that is one of the big couples on the show. Then you have Ashley and Grant. She's 28 and he's 28 as well. She's an accountant, CPA. He's a business owner. They've kind of been off and on for about 1.5 years. He has a child from a previous relationship. And there are lots of questions with regard to his infidelity early in the relationship, which gives her major trust issues. So that's another couple. Then you have Alexa and Lino. They're both 28. She is a labor and delivery travel nurse, and he is a personal trainer. So because of her job, they've had to move a lot in the last 3 years. And so it makes him have a lot of insecurities. And I think he's trying to figure out, what do I do and how do I feel like a strong sense of self when my job is always in flux. I have to reinvent myself as a personal trainer every time we move. I've got to find new clients, etc. So that's their headache. And then the last couple, Taylor's 30 and Tyler is 27. And he is in sales, but he's also a burgeoning model. He's has this new modeling career. And I know you're like, Kate, forget it, right? She is 30. She's a health education specialist and a certified personal trainer. And here's the issue with them. Taylor and Tyler jumped into a relationship immediately after he ended a 6-year marriage. So I think a lot of you are going to go up, and it's got a lot of issues. And also, like I said, he's a new model. Yeah. And they live in Nashville, where I think there are a lot of beautiful people. So those are the couples. And we're waiting to see whether or not they're going to make it by the end of 10 episodes. So you have plenty of episodes to watch. So where I pick up with Mark in this interview is we're just about to find out who is still together because the show is ended and they've had sort of this embargo, you're not allowed to reveal. So it's interesting to get his insight since he knows these couples so well. And the great thing too about the show is that he's been married a long time. He has a daughter and his wife comes with him to the show and she has great insights as well off camera. So when you're watching him in these moments, you're going to go, that's a dude who's been married. That's a dude that's a dad. He gets it. So if you're looking for something to binge and you're like, I want to laugh, I want to be like in a cringeworthy moment, this is right up your alley. My guest is the host, Mark Walberg. He's been on the show before. He's so good at what he does. And I think you're going to love the show. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. Now, you know I've said that my goal this year is to stay more hydrated. You can gift yourself the everyday indulgence of extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV powered by Live Hydroscience. They've got true-to-fruit flavors that keep you hydrated. And you can find all your favorite hydration multiplier flavors on their website. I have to say my favorite flavor is the sugar-free raspberry lemonade because it's a bright, zero sugar flavor combining notes of ripe, freshly picked raspberries and citrusy, zesty lemon. And it really gets me going on my day. I think you're going to love it too. I like feeling like I'm hydrated all day long. And if you're somebody who's outdoors or plays sports, this is an absolute must-have. You can break the mold and own your own ritual. Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. And also 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Treat yourself to extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code KateCasey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code KateCasey at liquidiv.com. Let's face it, weight loss can feel overwhelming. That's why Hers is changing the game. By providing access to GLP-1 medications plus expert care, they make your goals more achievable. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans delivered straight to your door if prescribed. Hers offers a holistic weight loss program with personalized solutions, including compounded GLP-1 weekly injections, featuring the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy or oral medication kits. So after submitting an online intake form, a licensed medical provider will determine what plan is best for you. And if prescribed, your program includes medication, ongoing care, and online support, and all at one cost. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time for you to find the best option that works for you through Hers. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/KateCasey. That's forhers.com/KateCasey for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/KateCasey. Hers weight loss is not available everywhere. Compatible products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. Okay, Mark, I'm obsessed with the show and always have been. I'm obsessed with you. I wrote you a note and I mean it. You are superb on this show. And I've watched all through these 9 seasons, wherever you end up landing, it's always done way back. It's always done well. But I think that this is the best version of the show I've ever seen. And I think it's because it's such a complex topic. And I think Netflix is the right place for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Netflix is like the gold standard. Like, when we were on USA and even when we were on Fox, Fox were kind of inventing the genre. It was like a different thing.
Yeah.
Netflix, it all starts with casting and they're great. So I can only do what I can with who I have. And I'm always thrilled with whatever cast we have. But this cast was really, the right cast. And then there's just production value. Executive producer from Netflix, David Freeman, did such a great job shaping the show. And so, I think it just looks better. The show looks prettier and better. And so that kind of sets it up for me. Plus, from a production structure, they're all like, everybody's handling their business. So I get to just stay in my lane and do what I do. And I felt really supported.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. You can tell it seems like you had a sense of freedom that you could explore, I think, the psychology a little bit more in this one than I've seen in other ones, in other versions of the show.
I think, I've had the freedom. Like, it's a really strange thing. Like, those bonfires go down and they kind of just, I mean, I have an earpiece, and if I miss something, I got a question coming in from David in the booth. But for the most part, it's a free form thing. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what we're going to get. And that's a freedom you don't often get in my position in TV at all.
Yeah.
So, and then I just take the leap of faith that if I stay in the moment with them, we're going to get something that people want to watch, but we're going to get something authentic. And so rather than kind of taking notes and preparing, my prep is to clear my mind and meet them where they are. And that's a little bit of a gamble for production and for me, but that's a process that is familiar, and they've been great to let me do.
Now, I do think that and I feel like I have this in my own job too. When you interview people for so long and get to know them, there is something to using your intuition that I think makes you able to really connect with somebody that you're talking to. And in your job as host, do you feel like you lean on your intuition a lot?
I think all of that is true. I feel like to get what we want, or for me to be effective in the bonfires, it's a little bit of it. The intuition is, following your heart and your life experience to know where to go with the question. But I really think it's more about listening really deeply. So like somebody says something and you hear that at face value, what those words are. But my life experience, and I guess this is intuition, is to listen not to what the words they said are, but why they chose those words. Because usually what's going on with them is behind whatever they're saying, which to some degree is true, and some degree is masking what they don't realize they feel. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does.
So like, when, like with Taylor, it's like I'm witnessing body language and her smile and all this stuff, which says to me, this is armor. This is not really what you're feeling. This is you pretending to be strong, and you are strong. I'm not writing that off, but that's when I kind of dug a little deeper and then she sort of breaks down and says, nobody loves me. I would leave me. And it's just the way life is for me. And then the doors open and you're in.
And you were great to comfort her in that, which I don't know, in other show situations, I don't think I would have seen the same thing. But, you're like, you are lovable.
When I came in.
Yeah.
So that's like, that's the other thing that makes this show special. And I'm really grateful for, look, to be honest with you, I'm a puddle of emotion all the time. I take things really seriously. I'm like that empath thing to a negative sense, like to the codependent sense. So when they said they wanted to bring Case back in, and there's discussion, have we ever done this before? And can we do this? And I'm like the OG of the show. And I'm like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. We don't have a format. You do what you want. But then I say, this might give me an opportunity something's been on my mind with Taylor. And do you mind if I kind of just have a moment? Of course, they ate that up because it's TV, but it was real for me. What she said at the bonfire kind of stuck with me. And I didn't feel good about it. And so what I said in that moment, and I kind of got choked up, which I was kind of embarrassed because that looked like a little bit of TV humbug. But I'm a dad. Yeah. I got a daughter, I've got a sister, and, and I was like, nobody should feel that way. And I don't think Case coming back ever really was about her particularly. But I did want her to say, look, here was a guy who was interested in you who left. And now he's back. And there's no pressure on you, but I just want to use that as a metaphor that maybe what you think is not true, or even if it's been true, why don't we change that narrative? Because you don't deserve it. Nobody does.
Well, when you get closer to the filming of the show, how much of the packages do you get to see? How much of their bios? Or do you show up and it's just you're learning as you go?
I mean, before the first tape day, I'm doing everything I can to learn their names.
Yeah.
I get like maybe a paragraph on each. Like, I don't really remember. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But this season, I don't think there was any video. I think maybe there's like a picture of Alexa and Lino and a overview of their relationship, maybe a half a page. And so I read those and digest what I can. And then to me, I mean, that's helpful. But like when you see that first scene when they walk in, they sit in those little gazebos and we have this conversation.
Yeah.
That's my first time. And I'm just kind of, we're just going for it. I couldn't tell you or not because I can't really remember because it's pretty seamless. But David Friedman, the executive producer, is in my ear. So if I need some guidance, I got a running buddy with me.
Yeah.
But he's really great. Not in my ear very much. I just want to make the point that I don't want to take all the credit for everything, but it's really free form. It's like if you were to meet a couple for the first time and say, so why are you here? What's the deal? And they kind of tell you, and then you ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
And it's not really deeper than that. It's just like I said, pay attention. And this is the leap I think is hard for some people to make on TV. But I've been on TV so long that the camera thing, like where we are, it just doesn't matter to me. Like I can be in my skin, even with the whirlwind of shit going on around. So I just make the leap of caring.
Yeah.
Like, what would it be like if I just said, I really care about these people? What if I bought what I'm selling? What if this crazy, stupid, ridiculous show that nobody should go on, they're here and I give it the backbone of, all right, let's see, this is stupid, but let's see what we can learn. Let's see how we can become better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that because you care so deeply and you're such a great listener, to your point, the idea that this is such a strange concept to outsiders, it sort of melts away and you start to begin to picture yourself at different points of your life, like a couple that maybe was together in high school and then you go to college and that's a completely different, can you handle the temptation that you get in college or when you move away from one another and, someone has a job in another part of the country. So to your point, I think that listening allows people to crack themselves open. And when people do that, you start to let go of some of the judgments that you begin to develop when you first meet the couples.
That's really astute.
Yeah.
I think that, first of all, the one thing I think is a common denominator in all humans is that we don't particularly want you to fix us. What we want is to be seen and heard.
Yes, absolutely.
That's like the whole thing. And listening is the act of letting people know they're seen and heard. And then the other thing that you said that's really important is even in what appears to be despicable behavior, you got to put judgment on the shelf. You make a good point. In different points in our lives, we have a definition of what love is, and we handle it whatever way we do. And it keeps escalating. I mean, I say it in really simple terms, like you go to summer camp and you're in 6th grade and you fall in love in the morning and you break up by lunch and you're saying, I love you at a certain level. Then you get to high school and you're like, no, that wasn't love. This is love.
Yeah.
And then you get your heart broken and you go, whoa, wait a minute, let's redefine that. I'm not throwing those words around so much. And as you get older and thicker and smarter and more experienced, that phrase, I love you, holds more weight. And when it doesn't, you're not growing. And so what I say, and I really try to say to the women a lot, I think what happens on the show is that people come in, as we all do, and they're saying we have a problem with the relationship and they're pointing their finger. He doesn't do.
Always.
I'm getting.
Almost always.
He doesn't do, right?
Right.
And I kind of go, hey, let's back this up. I'm not discounting that. It's probably true. But why don't we try to define for you something you never had before? What would a healthy love relationship in fantasy land look like to you? Because once we can speak that out and maybe, define that a little bit, then we've got a chance to have it. But if we can't even imagine it, like in Taylor's case, if you can't even imagine a world where people don't leave, then you're going to make sure people leave.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I approach it. It's not about the other person. And that's where it really shifts. And I know I'm rambling on, but, I say to them at the beginning, you come here with questions, and I promise you're going to get answers, but they won't be these questions.
Yeah.
And that ends up being true even in this crazy show.
I wonder too, how much of what are the conversations you have with the tempters beforehand? Your job is to be super tempting, or is your job to be good listeners? Like, is it a mix of all those things?
I have none conversations.
Oh.
On the day that the reveal with the robes and the whole, all of that, while we're blocking it, I'm learning their names.
Okay.
I'm quick with that. So that's kind of a fun game for me.
Yeah.
And it's flirty and fun, and we're all kind of giggling. And I'm doing what I can to keep my self-esteem next to these guys with their abs and everything, which is not easy to every season. I'm like, oh, Jesus. But they're usually really like supportive and loving, and they're having fun. But as far as coaching them who to be, if any of that happens, that's production, the producers. I have little to no interaction with the tempters and temptresses.
Mm-hmm.
But as the show goes on, when I come in and check out, we develop some sort of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun, glad to see each other kind of vibe, dap the guys up, and the girls are like, hey, Mark, and that's always fun. It's like my ship, and I'm steering the ship a little bit. So when I show up, the dynamic changes, and I have a lot of affection for them. They're young and they're living this crazy life, and I, again, I'm no judgment. So I'm like, hi, family.
Yeah.
But there's no coaching.
Well, it does seem too that it's funny to watch the metamorphosis, because at the beginning, the tempters are so aggressive, but by the end of it, they've really developed relationships with the people that have come to the show.
Two things there. One is, how can it happen so fast? Well, if you remember things like summer camp is the best analogy I can give, is that you got no phones, you got no bills, you got no, mom and dad or whatever. So time, like an hour is a day, things get thick. And as crazy and tempting, and especially on that first day when they give those one-liners where I cringe. But what happens is people are living together. There's a dynamic.
Yeah.
And who they actually are shows up. And I think a great example is, and I hope I got the right girl, but Amaya, I think.
Yep.
When she kind of just says, look, man, you're not okay with me. I don't want to go on a date with you.
No, that was great.
Was bad. And that's the stuff where growth happens. Like, that's check yourself before you wreck yourself. You hear it from where you hear it from. And he was pissed. I mean, he was like, what's your problem? Like when she leaves his bedroom. But, even that reaction, defensive reaction, he's still got to sit with that.
Yes.
And so I kind of like that. I like when things start to, and the same thing on the girl side, when these guys, it's apparent they're not going to be a love interest, but they still invest that friendship and that, it's important to inform yourself with a friendship of the opposite sex when you're in these things.
Yeah.
And so very generous in that sense.
Well, I had a tremendous gratitude for the men who were the tempters, because they did really seem to develop friendships with the women. They were great listeners, but it seems so different on the other side of the coin. And I think it's because the men on the other side, they set the tone, right?
Yeah. Well, this is sort of like a generalization, but, the girls go in the villa and they're just all about their boyfriends.
Yeah.
They don't want to really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guys, and again, kind of gender generalization, so forgive me for this, but a lot of times the dynamic is, we want to be good, but oh my God, look at all these toys. And, and what can I get away with? And how do I twist the narrative so I can? And they're immediately like, it's like playground time.
Yeah.
They revert back to that middle school boy attitude.
Yeah.
And so, it's like the girls' side is shots and stuff, but then long talks and things like that in the early moments. And then the boys' side is like shots and body shots and, 40 little party games. And they're just overwhelmed. It's like sensory overload, I think.
Now, we both know that shopping for a rug can be challenging. You've either got insanely expensive handcrafted rugs or the mass-produced alternatives that won't hold up. But that's where Revival Rugs comes in. Revival's founders didn't want to spend thousands on a new rug, but they didn't want to settle for less either. Revival is a global company with teams in the U.S. as well as weaving regions in India, Turkey, and Morocco. Revival works with artisans to preserve rug-making traditions and pass on this value to you. Eliminating middlemen allows them to remove steep markups, giving you amazing value at incredible prices. And Revival's popular washable rugs have the look and feel of a real rug, so you don't have to sacrifice style for convenience. And my favorite, which I ordered, is the sweatshirt rug. And I also love the stripe rug. So spruce up your space with Revival Rugs. Visit revivalrugs.com/realitylife and use code KateCasey20 for 20% off your first order. That's revivalrugs.com/realitylife, code KateCasey20. One more time, revivalrugs.com/realitylife with code KateCasey20 to save 20%. There are so many things in life we just never get around to. Taking up that hobby, cleaning out the garage, the little things that don't really make huge differences in our lives. Yet, there's one thing that most of us have probably been neglecting that can have a huge impact on our family's future. It's life insurance. And with SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is easier and more affordable than you may think. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. If you have high blood pressure, no problem. If you have diabetes, that's fine too. And even if you have heart disease, SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and others. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote, they shop and you save. So get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/realitylife. Go to selectquote.com/realitylife today and get started. That's selectquote.com/realitylife.
Was there a sense of regret after some of that? You're witness to the changes that they're making throughout this filming process.
I asked that question when there is a they overstep, somebody has sex or whatever. I kind of asked that question all right, you made the choice. I get it. You're playing the game. This is all part of it. But in the moment or directly after the moment, how much of your girlfriend and her pain jumps into your head? And sometimes that answer is none. Like with Brian and, Brian, it was clear that he could compartmentalize. And I've said this in other interviews, but if I drop the ball at all, I wish that conversation I had late in the show where I asked him about his growing up and he reveals, oh my God, child of abuse, foster home, raised himself, no idea of what a love relationship is. I really wish I'd asked that much earlier. I feel like we could have done some work.
Yeah.
So if I talk to him, and I hope I do, I give him a little apology that I feel like I let him down. I didn't, it's 4-on-1. There's 4 guys I'm trying to get, this is me kind of defending my own situation. But I really wish I'd have realized that this guy, we all saw the behavior. It's like, Brian, what the hell? And I wish I'd have been astute enough and paid attention enough to ask those questions earlier.
I worried about the 2 women that he had their threesome with and how they're feeling now having that playback. And I know that you've said that I know this to be true of you. People from seasons ago still DM you and text you and like to have you in their life. So you're hearing from all of them as they watch this playback. The 2 women that he was with, how are they feeling now having this playback?
I haven't heard from them, but I think this is a dynamic that's worth talking about. There was a time when a girl did stuff that they had to feel shame. And we, if a dude did that, we're like, yeah, my man, we're high-fiving. If a girl did that, they're just a slut. And thank God we've evolved.
Yeah.
Where women being sexual and single women doing whatever the hell they want doesn't have to come with shame or regret or, to be defended. So I'd like to think that the women who did what they did it of their own accord. They had a good time. It was an adventure. I don't feel like if they felt like they were used in the situation, I would hope they would have expressed that to Brian. But I didn't get any sense that anybody did anything they didn't want to do.
Okay, good.
And maybe I'm wrong. I'm often the Pollyanna, and I can't really speak for them, but I think it's important for us to say, look, if a guy wilds out, we're like, dude, bro, whoa. And if a girl wilds out or a woman wilds out, they get to have sexual energy and experience and adventure, even if it doesn't fit in the box of what you think is appropriate behavior for a young lady. That's like 1990s talk. And, live your life, girl.
Yeah. Well, though Amaya did say, I feel like he is not always acknowledging his mistakes, doesn't take responsibility, and pushes boundaries.
Look, I agree. I don't think his behavior is indicative of respecting women.
Yeah.
But for women who want to play along just because they want to get their own kicks, everybody's in it for what they want. My problem with Breon, that's not a problem with Breon, but what my hope for his growth is that without a mother that you could trust and then other foster parents who abused you, there's anger, resentment, and fear.
Or self-sabotaging because you don't want to be vulnerable and get hurt.
And what we've learned in abusive relationships is that sometimes the abused become the abuser. I'm not saying he's an abuser, but the ability to compartmentalize his behavior from the person he actually loves, I can understand. Because that act of threesome and stuff like that, it's not so much about sexual desire. Yeah. It's more about avenging pain from the past. Taking back your power by going, fuck this. I do what I want. You don't do this to me. I do it to you.
Correct. Right.
And I'm sensitive to that. Yeah. So I have a big warm spot for Breon.
Well, that's what makes you different. I think you took the time to see who he was in his life. I always believe that understanding someone's origin experience allows you to look at things in a broader context.
You're right. It's everything. I mean, we are an amalgam of our experiences. And even more so, if you want to get really heady, at 5 or 6 years old, we decide who we're going to be based on some traumatic experience, how we processed it with our brain that has no information. The same brain that believes Santa Claus is real is trying to add up what's happening to them and then makes a decision. Oh, my dog died. I feel horrible. On the day my dog died, I was doing this. So if I don't ever do that again, my dog and nobody else is going to die. That kind of crazy logic happens at 5, 6 years old. And if we don't address it, look at it, be coached through it, it can run our lives our whole life.
Yeah. It's the whole narrative. Like I said, a lot of them keep in touch with you. What can you tell me anything about these couples? Because I don't think there's going to be a reunion. So what's going on?
As you may know, I've started my own podcast. And to be honest with you, I don't know where anybody is. I have a good feeling. I haven't had updates because, up till like yesterday, nobody's been allowed to say anything. So I have a good feeling Alexa and Lee know where they are.
Yeah.
But I'm in the process of trying to book some of those people on my show. Out of curiosity, I'm like,
we all want to know, yeah.
Like when Breon and Shantae left the island, I could really kind of go off on this, but for me, it was really unsettling. I did not think about it. I was grappling with, do I step in or not? And then I started looking at it and I thought to myself, what if she knows all that backstory that we just learned?
I think she did. And that's why she kept saying, this is not him. She knows something that we do not know. I'm giving some grace for that.
And that's not for us to judge. And I think that's really important to note that although I don't think she felt great about it, I think she had made a decision and then saw him and got swept up. But nonetheless, if you give the context that, like it or not, she's aware of where he's come, they've shared that, and that even though the pain is horrible for her, she can kind of see and maybe love him up. It's hard to get your head around, but I kind of want to talk to them about that.
I want to know if Tyler and Kay worked out.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
He posted a picture with some other girl like yesterday.
Oh.
But I mean, this is me just stalking.
But also, like, he's a model in Nashville. He's probably killing the game. But you know what? I have some empathy for him because he got married so young and he didn't allow himself enough time to process the end of that relationship and date. And I think that story is far more relatable than all the other ones.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. You jump from one to the other. It feels good to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And you don't give yourself a chance to be with yourself. And to be honest with you, that's the key to all relationships. If you get good and love yourself first, it's going to be hard to have a sustained relationship.
Do you think Danny with Ashley, he's like, I have spent enough time on this island and I'm grateful that you want a future with me, but I got to go home and get back to my life?
I don't know. I get the sense from what she's posted that the friendship Logan and her and Danny and her, whatever that relationship was, is strong and lasting.
Okay.
Like she's posted a lot of funny, like silly stuff about having 2 boyfriends and things like that.
Yeah.
And they played along with her. I don't know if they're still together, Danny and her, but I do think he's the sweetest guy.
Oh, good.
I think he really served her. I think he had feelings. I think she had feelings. And, maybe it's summer camp stuff. Like I said, I don't know where that's at. I'll tell you this. One of the things I like about the show is like the relationships you see on the show and people leave with this one or don't leave with that one. Those don't often end up lasting by the numbers. But what really is a number that nobody crunches is the number of people, both single and couples, who on their next relationship, it becomes a forever relationship.
Yeah.
I think is kind of uncanny.
Interesting.
I don't take much stock in what we, the show, or me in particular have done to help that. But I just think the experience is so visceral and ridiculously over the top. It forces you into a place of self-inventory that you may not have done if you didn't do something crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so people are going to be able to listen to your episodes and you're going to be interviewing them and you're going to be finding out about the relationship just at the same time we are. Okay, good.
So if they say yes, I'm trying to book it right now.
Well, they better
show up.
Jeez. Where can people follow you?
Well, you can follow me at, I think I'm at Mark Walberg or at Mark L. Walberg on Instagram. And if you want to listen to the podcast or YouTube, at Bonfire Talks Podcast. And then,
Great.
I guess that's, from a guy my age, that's as much social as I can tell you.
And lastly, thank you to your wife, who I know goes with you on all these trips.
Every moment on set, she's there.
Yeah, and is giving you feedback too. And she's an unsung hero in all of this. So thank you to her as well.
I try to sing her. I joked that in the first season on USA, I said, babe, I put you in my contract that you've got to come. But the vacation, you kind of need to be invisible. You know how the business is.
Yeah.
That was season 1. And then by season 2, makeup and wardrobe sitting next to close enough to hear for the bonfires. And Robbie's there. By the end of that season, she's got a headset. By the next season, she's in the control room. And now she's grown into like advisor.
Yeah.
Because I'll do a bonfire and I'll come out into the crew and people who are watching. They're like, oh my God, that was great. You were great. Oh my God. And I'm like, thanks. And then I'll walk back to like the dressing room with Robbie and she'll go, that was great, babe. Where were you going with this? Like, cause she knows me.
Yeah.
She taught me a lot of this. So thanks for saying it because she's a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't learn it from her.
Well, they have a good example, those that are on that island, trying to process what they want in a relationship. And that's a nice thing for them to look up. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Great talking to you again. Thanks for having me back.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest, Mark, and remind you to click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review. Jump in the Facebook group, Reality Life with Kate Casey. Please subscribe to the What to Watch list at katecasey.substack.com. Bonus episodes, extra episodes, you can check them out by going to patreon.com/Kate Casey. And then also make sure that you follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KateCaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, at Kate Casey. Please make sure you're following me and make sure that you check in for tomorrow's Saturday series episode.
And now, a next-level moment from AT&T Business. Say you've sent out a gigantic shipment of pillows, and they need to be there in time for International Sleep Day. You've got AT&T 5G, so you're fully confident. But the vendor isn't responding, and International Sleep Day is tomorrow. Luckily, AT&T 5G lets you deal with any issues with ease, so the pillows will get delivered and everyone can sleep soundly, especially you. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G network.